team and his club. Liverpool's very parochial, you see. It's a very parochial city, so even younger Liverpool fans are like us, you know, guys who 18 upwards. But you know, there is an element. There's lots of fans, especially from London. You know, London have got clubs everywhere. You know, they travel everywhere to watch people. But no, it is a fact of life that it is changing, very much so. And maybe in 20, 30 years' time, it'll be sort of like Scottish and everything, Scottish, Irish. You know, New Yorkers and everything at Anfield. You know, but it is acceptable now. I mean, the Evertonians. There's two clubs in Liverpool. There's Everton as well. Everton detest Liverpool, well, they play in blue, which you'll see. Even the back, our camera guy is an Evertonian. But you know, they're a part of the fabric, and like, we get on well with them. You know, the Norwegians are a great stranglehold in the city now, so we are, you know, we're receptive. Because the city's like that, it is a multicultural city anyway. And although we're parochial, we're very, very open and receptive to anything.
Well, let's be honest. If you put a gun to anyone's head, they're going to come up with one club. I doubt anyone here is going to mention 4 clubs that they love.
What's your one club?
Who's one club?
Yours.
Mine?
Yeah.
Parma.
Parma?
Parma, small Italian team that won my heart over early 90s. That's my team.
Alright. Simon?
I'm very skeptical of that statement that you just made, that if you put a gun to their head, everybody's going to come up with one club. I think a lot of people will, and a lot of people, they would come up with one club. You ask them in 5 years' time, they'll come up with a different one club, and they'll say that was always their club. Because in football there's this pressure to be sort of blood and soil, to always be in the same club, even when it's not really true.
In life, though, there's one experience with a football club that touches us, that wins us over, and it's rare that, you know, you can switch over. You know, in my opinion, those are really not the hot-blooded soccer fans that we know.
You're just talking about one version of fandom, both of you. You're talking about your version of fandom. There's many different versions of fandom besides that. But the thing is that in the rhetoric around the game, your version has been accepted as the best, and everyone else has been seen as slightly embarrassing and not authentic. So those people keep a bit quieter about it.
Right, and you said it. They're not authentic. And I challenge anyone. I challenge anyone who supports 4 teams to tell me how they're more authentic than the diehards.
We can get into a discussion about finding authenticity, but that would be a bit postmodern, so I suggest that you
Alright. Well, in all of this discussion about sort of the passion, it comes back to they come back again and again to the town and the city. But I do want to at some point discuss the game itself. I mean, you've talked about some of the great players that have gone through Liverpool, and there are a few there still. Not as many as in the past. But it's true. It's going to come back here, and we can blame the American owners. How's that? And like, Simon, I'm going to actually send this to you first. What is it about the actual game itself? 11 people on the field at once. It is a very team-oriented game that brings about this passion and maybe even brings about it from a middle-class or working-class originally roots.
I mean, in my experience, it's even less about the game, because let's be honest, of the quantity of soccer games, the totality of soccer games that are out there, I mean, 80% maybe, and that's generous, are really great games that have us, you know, gripping, you know, at the edge of our seats watching them. And it all comes down to me about everything outside the field. I don't know that there's anything on the field that necessarily sells us on the sport. It's more the fact that the team is a social construct. We're all part of it. We grew up with the club. The club takes our kids in their youth academies.
Yes, but is it easier to be a fan of a team like Liverpool than a fan of, I don't know, Villa? It's a team that never really reaches that level of success.
I mean, I think it really depends on the personal experience. I think you can fall in love with Aston Villa if your personal experience, whether you happen to watch them in your first game, whether, you know, there's one player you identify with because he's American and plays on Aston Villa. So yeah, I think there are ways.
I'm just struck by the very Englishness of this conversation, and Simon, I can't use an honorary Englishman here, because I grew up in football in Holland. When I was 7, we moved to Holland, and it was the 70s, and it was the best football country in the world. And I didn't grow up in the way that you did, of going to Anfield or to a stadium at the age of 6. my brother and I went onto the street to the nightly kick around. Every night there was a kick around on the street, and all the boys in the street, because in those days girls weren't allowed to play soccer, played every night in this kick around. So I fell for soccer. I think this is a very Dutch experience, as a game that you play. And then very secondarily you watch, because of course Dutch league, never very thrilling. National team only plays important games once every 2 years. So soccer for the Dutch is a game that you play and a game that you think about. And what you're describing is sort of vibrating, as it were, with the team, and what you described, watching the cop, I think is a very English thing. Because in England, I mean, as you say also, the fans are part of the game. The fans are actual participants. They're not just watching, they belong in the scene. Whereas in Holland, the fans just watch. You go to a game to watch it, to study it, to analyse it. You certainly don't go to shout out, cheer the opposition. So I think what's been missing so far, I agree with you, is soccer is the best. I wouldn't say it's the best game that you play, because I think cricket is a better game in many ways, but soccer is actually the most fun game.
But if it was about playing the sport, I mean, the United States culturally would be the best soccer country in the whole world. We have so many people playing the sport and telling us, oh, they love to play, but they can't stand watching a game. To me, those fans, they don't help the sport. It's not really, a culture that is helping us at all.
See, I think playing is better than watching.
Okay, so you fall in line with these millions of people who are playing in the United States, but then don't bother to consume the sport.
They are consuming the sport, just in a different way from the one you do with other two.
Well, Dave, did you play growing up?
Yeah, I was shit. I played in goal, I wasn't good, but I love playing at goal. I mean, because participation is great, so participate in the game, but it's just as good to watch it for me. But I can really appreciate great football, but I totally agree. It's got to be, it's more deeper than that. It is an English thing. When you're watching football, it's not about watching. I can watch Barcelona every night of the week. I think they're fantastic. But there's nothing on that pitch. Sometimes I'll ooh and I'll what a great pass and what a great goal stuff is. But not make me jump out of my seat and go away. I'm not jumping out of my seat when I'm watching those teams. But that's what I do with Liverpool. And that's another thing about the football, because it breaks down barriers, especially from a macho type of thing. I've got brothers and I'm from a generation, I think most lads are the same, and you can't tell your brother that you love him or nothing like that. But if Liverpool scored a goal, I've got my tongue down his throat and everything. So it breaks down barriers as well, so it's a great thing, football. It does releases all sorts.
What about on the international level? What happens and how does the passion, because it's all been very local, how does it shift now when you get to the international level? Do you have that same passion when England play? I mean, obviously, Mr. Carragher will have that because his son is on the field. But do you put your thumb down someone's throat when England's play? I'm not even sure what country you're rooting for in this one, but Holland. Okay.
Yes.
And yes. Okay. And Simon, Malta's never made it, but when the US play, right? You will be cheering for them. But is it the same passion that you'll have for the country?
In my personal, no, not for me. I could never get really excited. That's probably a generation thing as well. I mean, it was a whole decade. When I was a kid, by the way, I watched the England World Cup in '66. I was running all around the garden, and my mum and dad had a big street party. But I went through the 1980s, which socially and economically, Liverpool was basically blitzed politically by Mrs. Thatcher. So anyone who went through the 1980s in Liverpool, they lost a lot of patriotism. That went, and I couldn't support England. We just seen it as London United. So, but that sort of came back in 1996 in the European Championships when England were playing really great. And it helps when a couple of players from your own team are in the squad. Like in this present squad, we've got Steve and Jamie in the squad. So that helps. But I don't, I couldn't go to the places I go to when I'm watching Liverpool. It's never been that much for me.
What about for Holland?
Yeah, I mean, Holland is the country, I think much more than in England. I mean, as Dave says, there's a distance a lot of people feel to the England football team, and that distance apparently increases the further you get away from London. So support for England is stronger the closer people are to London. England's a more regional country, a country with more regional identities, and Liverpool is perhaps the best example of that. In Holland, I mean, my friend Adrian's here, we mourned together the Holland-Russia game 2 years ago. In Holland, everybody supports the national team, and the viewing figures are astonishing. I mean, when Holland lost